I'm Bob Henriquez, Hillsborough County property appraiser, fifth generation Hillsborough, Tampa resident. I've actually lived in Wellswood 25 years or so, but my experience with Wellswood goes back to the late 70s when I went to Tampa Catholic High School. So I've been around Wellswood for an awful long time. I live on the corner of Wishart and Erna, sort of right in the center of Wellswood. Previously, I lived on Park Lane and a portion, and also lived on Eldred as well back in the 90s. And the thing that I tell people when they say, "Well, where is Wellswood?" Then you tell them, they kind of, "Oh, I know where that is." But literally, if you threw a dart in the middle of the city of Tampa limits, you would hit Wellswood. So you're 8 to 12 minutes from anything that you would want to do in terms of the urban environment in Tampa. So it's very, very convenient for folks. It's close to everything that you might need in terms of the kinds of things to live and work. But it has its own sense of place because it's kind of a unique. You're still near that West Tampa different type of place. You're not living in everyday suburbia where you have everybody has the same Target and chain stores and Starbucks and all that. You're close enough to where you really can feel the spirit of what is West Tampa. I believe, if not the first, it was one of the first deeded communities in the city of Tampa. And I just remember it always being a very, quaint, sort of sedate, traditional neighborhood where families that lived there had lived there for a long time. Once those families moved out, other folks, a lot of times it was the families passing the homes on or their progeny wanting to come back and live in Wellswood. It's such a special place, sort of really kind of a hidden. It was really hidden and sort of a secret back in the day. That hasn't changed a great deal, although now we're starting to see some of the things in terms of infill development, things that you're seeing in other neighborhoods close to Wellswood, maybe on the other side of the river, Riverside Heights, Tampa Heights, some of those things. But it hasn't changed that much. And the anchor really having, sort of Tampa Catholic right in the middle is the anchor going back to the 60s. Where Walgreens is now in Hillsborough, there was a place called La Tasca, a little restaurant, Spanish restaurant that was a fantastic place, sort of a gathering place. There were a number of little Spanish restaurants around that area and sort of that were fantastic. That were gathering places for the families. We still have ABC Pizza. That was always sort of a central location. I still remember the original McDonald's. Where it is now on Armenia wasn't that far away. That was the gathering place for the high school for us to go, whether it be at lunch or what have you. DePerio's on Armenia. Those folks, these were places that you would go and see folks. You see all your neighbors. And I'll tell you, folks walk. It's a walkable neighborhood. And even the newer folks that have moved in, where we live, it's ideal because we're right on Erna and Wishart, so everybody walks by there. And just to sit down on a nice evening out in my front yard and just see the families and the people pushing strollers and walking their dogs and what have you. It really gives you a sense of what a neighborhood and what things used to be like that we so much lack these days. I think there's a sense of belonging there, a sense of community, and it's really a microcosm of what I believe Tampa is and should continue to be, which is a place in which you can be there a week and it's like you've been there a year. Be there a year, it's like you've been there a lifetime, and so it's a very welcoming community as well. So even for folks that aren't Wellswood, that have been in Wellswood for generations, there's new generations now moving in that I see that they are enjoying, and they're being drawn to that sense of community. Yeah, my great grandfather Enrique was the last mayor of West Tampa. In 1925, West Tampa was annexed into the city of Tampa on New Year's. There's a famous picture in which he's in McFarland Park with a bunch of other dignitaries. I have it in my office the day before it was annexed, and some kind of a ceremony. And so, yeah, my roots are certainly deep. And as the story goes, he gave his political stump speeches in the gazebo on the top of McFarland Park. He made it a point, my understanding, certainly I wasn't there in 1925, to make a point that West Tampa, when it became part of the city of Tampa, that the infrastructure in West Tampa and its financial circumstances were better than the city of Tampa's. So he was handing something, a gem over to the city of Tampa. Over the years, that's something that probably you wouldn't necessarily be able to say anymore, but hopefully we'll get back to that point. Hopefully the things that drew my ancestors and so many ancestors to Ybor City, West Tampa, City of Tampa, that there's enough of an understanding that there's certain unique aspects to this community that need to remain in order for this community to be that unique community. We have to identify what those unique things that make Tampa Tampa, and I would submit to you that part of that is the welcoming community. As I said, the community in which you can be here for 5 minutes and feel like, wow, I want to be here for a long time. And then you're here a year and you feel like you've been here 10 years, in which people, you see that. People move here and a year later they're entrenched in the community and they feel like, gosh, I've been here, I think that's that welcoming community, that truly, that stew pot. I don't want to say a melting pot because the stew pot, everybody kind of comes together to make the stew what it is, that rich, thing that you enjoy in the end, but everybody has their own identity within that stew. That's Tampa. If Bo's ever closes, then I don't know what I'll do without that ice cream. But, you know, although I would fight with my South Tampa friends to go to Dairy Joy or whatever, but, we call that the South Tampa Bo's.